Hi guys, Tracy here with a layout that I did actually a couple of weeks ago, so I don't have any notes on this one and it was a while ago, so I hope I can do an okay job of narrating. I am looking through the Thinking Out Loud kit, which is the June kit from Scraptastic, and the kit came with all of these beautiful words. Most of them are die cut in different colors of vellum, but some of them are made out of one of each word is made out of another material. So either a foam glitter or cork, or there's also a resin piece. And they say conversation, currently, love, remember, and memories. And so I'm just kind of lining them up on this paper just to kind of see what they're going to look like, because I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do with them. But in the course of doing that, I actually came up with an idea for the layout. So I really like how the words memories kind of go down and end at 10. And I thought I could use this actually as my background paper, even though I wasn't planning to do that, and kind of have this layout be about 10 memories. I wanted all along for this layout to be about our international student who just left. And at this point, when I was scrapbooking this, he hadn't left yet, but we were preparing for him. I think he was writing exams when I scrapbooked this. So I'm going to go with that idea of the kind of like the memories down and down in the bottom left-hand corner, with it ending at number 10. And then my journaling is going to go right to the right of that, immediately to the right. And so I'm going to use that background paper. And it's a piece of Scraptastic paper that is designed by Caitlin Schaefer. You see the name on it right there. So I'm just going to cut off the manufacturer's strip there. And I really like this ledger paper because it's going to be perfect for me writing my list of 10 memories. So in the meantime, I'm going to pick out some pattern papers that I want to layer behind my photo. I have a 3x3 Instagram of Marcel from December, actually. So it's quite an old photo, but I wanted one that was very kind of focused on Marcel, on his face, and on the kind of experience. I wanted one photo to represent kind of his whole experience here. And we've got tons and tons of photos of him, but the one that I picked is him. He's outside. He's at Citadel Hill here in Halifax, and it just kind of represents the whole trip in my mind, because it's a very nice photo and it's very centered on Marcel. You'll see it in a few minutes. So anyhow, I'm going to call this 10 memories. So I spelled out the word 10 with those acrylic tiles that have letters on them from the kit. And I'm kind of, I want to use those cork elements as well, but I'm going to play around with how I'm going to use them. The other thing that I wanted to do besides using those words is figure out a use for this paper. I love this paper, but I really struggled with how to use it. And so I decided to kind of cut off some of these triangular, I guess they end up being chevron pieces once I cut them up. I'm going to cut them up like this, and they alternate between a kind of like a whitewashed wood floor and then a really beautiful glitter paper. And so I'm going to line them up so that they're going to point from my design there that says 10 memories. And it's going to point to the journaling, which will be over to the left, over to the right of that. So you see that I'm just showing you there where I'm going to line up my 10 memories. And the fact that this is a lined paper will make it very easy for me to do my journaling there. And I want the memories to be not, really elaborate memories, but just kind of like we went here, doing this, doing that. And so I'll read them to you when I come to the time to do the journaling. And they're going to be fairly general memories. So there's my photo. I just had to go get it off of my printer, and I'm going to trim it up with this is my Creative Memories little trimmer. It's perfect for trimming photos because it's perfect size for a 4x6 piece of paper. So these are all of the pattern papers that kind of spoke to me as I was going through the papers looking for potential layers. And so I'm going to start by matting it on this nice piece of craft paper with some lines on it. It just adds a little bit of interest. And then I've got this polka dot paper that I'm also going to use. And I'm just layering them. As you can see, I'm just using my scissors and being fairly casual and allowing just little bits of them to show. So that's about enough. And I don't have any notes on this. I don't know why I didn't write down. Usually I do, but so I'm just cutting off these, so I can't tell you who made which pieces of paper, so I'm sorry about that. But I just cut off 2 more pieces of gold because I wanted to bring some gold up into my layers under the photo. And so it almost looks like pieces of washi tape underneath there, but it's just as you saw, I just cut a couple of strips from the gold pattern paper. And I'm sorry that this is taking place out of the frame there, but basically I'm just trimming down each of these pieces of chevron pattern paper so that they nest within each other, and so that I can have a little bit of a gap between them, because they were right butt up against each other on the pattern paper. So if I plan to spread them out and I want them to be even on the left hand side, then I have to kind of take off a little bit of them in order to have a space. So here I'm thinking about using this mist to color this this cork, but this Heidi Swapp mist is just not opaque enough. It's really sinking into the cork, and it's not changing the color of it quite enough. So I switched to the Mr. Huey's white, which is a bit more opaque. It's actually a lot more opaque than the Heidi Swapp white mist, and I'm drying it because it does kind of really soak into the cork, and I wanted it to be fairly dry so it didn't leave any mess on anything that it touches on my layout. And I'm washing my hands really good so that I don't make a mess on anything. And what that does is it just kind of tones down. You can still see the texture of the cork, and you can still see the general kind of color of the cork, but it's really toned down. It almost gives it like a whitewashed look. So I am peeling off the little peelings that come on these acrylic letters. They're on there just to prevent them from scratching up against each other in the packaging. And I usually leave them on, to be honest, but I wanted to take them off this time just for a different look. And so now I'm going to pull off the backing off of this one. This is the only one that has a backing on it because the others are cut out of vellum. So this one, and I'm trying to, because there's a little bit of give to these, I want to try to make it look as much like one of the vellum ones as possible. As I kind of glued it down or adhered it down, I was really carefully looking at the ones above it, which are a set shape. So you can't stretch vellum the same way that you can stretch foam. So I will have to, see how I'm just kind of fussing a little bit with the way that the foam memories is kind of applied there. I'm going to just kind of keep on playing around with that one because that's the one that can move around, whereas the other ones are set. And I'm just using my Zig 2-way glue pen to adhere these memories onto my layout. And the last, or I guess it's sort of the first one, is, and I wanted it to kind of go from light colored to darker colored as far as the word memories go. And so what I'm doing here is I'm using a little bit of Tombow Mono Multi liquid adhesive. This is one of my favorite adhesives to use in almost any application. However, I was a little bit too liberal with it, and I just kind of forgot. I kind of learned this already using these kinds of letters before, but it's been a while since I've used them, so I just sort of forgot that when you put liquid glue in between 2 layers of this plasticky stuff, the glue really spreads because it doesn't have anything to absorb into. If you put it behind paper, for example, a little bit of the glue, I think, absorbs into the paper. as well as staying on the surface of the paper, but nothing goes into plastic. So or at least glue doesn't go into plastic. So when you squish it down, the glue just kind of oozed out of the edges and you could see it a little bit. Now, this glue does dry to a clear, non-shiny. It dries matte, which is one of the reasons why I like Tombow Multi adhesive, Mono Multi. But I just wasn't sure if it would dry clear and if you would see it under the shiny plastic or not. So I decided to take it out, as you saw me do, and just kind of clean it up a little bit. That's one of the benefits of putting glue on plastic, is you can easily wipe it off if you put too much on. And then I just shined it back up again. I used my shirt actually to buff it out a little bit so that so that the glue kind of smears disappeared and that sort of thing. So very forgiving when you use glue on plastic, as opposed to putting glue on almost anything else. It tends to, absorb in and then it's there. So before I glue these little chevron pieces down, I'm just making them, kind of bending them so that the edges are lifting up a little bit off of the page, just for a little bit of interest. And again, I'm using that Mono Multi for that tiny little bit, that tiny little piece. And because this ampersand is going to be half on a paper that is kind of lifted up off the background paper a little bit, and half on the background paper, I'm just using some pop dots to pop it up in the flat places so that it's not on an angle. And I'm just going to overlap that a little bit, raise it up a little bit. So my original idea here, I'm going to move these words of memories around a little bit. My original idea was that it would go from faint to more solid within the color scheme, and that would represent sort of the different kinds of memories. You have faint memories and you have more kind of solidified memories that you can see better or kind of access better. And so that was my idea of going from faint to a little bit darker to a little bit darker to the darkest one being the foam one at the very bottom. But then for legibility reasons, if 10 memories is going to be my title, I decided I wanted the most legible word of memories to be right under the word 10, just to make it clear that 10 memories is the title of this layout. So once I did that, I could have just left them all random, but I really did like that idea of faint memories versus more firm memories. And so I decided to kind of rearrange them all again so that they're exactly backwards from how they were before. So it's going to start with the most legible one, the kind of the heaviest one, the most readable one, and the darkest one at the very top, and then slightly less dark, and then more faint. This pink one is the one of the lightest, and it's just kind of, I've re-glued these so much that they're not, that they're sticking more to my fingers than they are to the paper. But it's okay, I'll get it. And I did rip that pink one a little bit. The O didn't quite come up quite nice, but I just glued it back down so that it was all in place. And then the very faintest memory is at the very bottom, which is kind of, it's almost a complete see-through color of vellum. So now I'm going to layer these papers back together again. So I'm going to stick in this little strip of gold above and below. And I really like that touch. It does look a lot like glitter washi tape on there. So I just layered them together so that there were little bits showing from each one. I'm going to throw some pop dots in between them, the layers, just to add a little bit of definition and some shadow in between the layers. And I'm also, as you see, kind of peeling them up with my fingers just to create a little bit of lift in between them. And I'm going to float this photo right up here along with the plus sign. And what I'm doing right now is I flipped over my layout ingredients form, which I wasn't using at all for this whole layout. I flipped it over and I've written out all of the 10 memories that I want to include. And so the last one is the surprise going away party. And then the second last one is family outings, hiking, restaurants, Greek fest, waterfront. And so what I did was I kind of counted down how much space I thought I would need, and then I still wasn't sure where to start with number 1, so that's why I decided to go from number 10 and work my way up, because I wanted it to end right in line with the bottom of the ampersand. So I'll read you the other memories. Cooking German dishes, it was number 8. 7 was car rides and conversations, because we had a lot of really kind of deep, both Scott and I drove Marcel lots of different places alone, and so we would have lots of really fun philosophical conversations. Longboarding in Halliburton was number 6. Number 5 was snowed in for 2 days over March break with Cam and Isaac. 4 was Halloween, Christmas, and Easter. 3 was chillin' with friends. 2 was surprise birthday party, and 1 was hikes in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. We went on several hikes with Marcel. So I'm going to take more of that Tombow Mono Multi and just apply that right there. And then I'm going to put 10 months in Canada with a little arrow. And I'm going to put this little ampersand flare badge that came in the kit just in the corner of the photo right there. So this is a very different layout for me. It's very kind of different kind of design. I really love it though. I love it when I manage to come up with something different, because, you know, we all have our styles, but it's nice to sometimes go outside of your comfort zone and try something a little bit different. So I'm thinking about using some of these denim stickers, mostly because I just love them, but none of them, they're just too big and heavy for what I'm looking for here. But what I decided to do was add some smaller navy blue accents by adding the geotag and the little asterisk up in those 2 places that you just saw me put them. I think that those 2 little highlights just kind of make it a little bit more of a cluster in both of those places. And it looks like I did my sprinkling off camera. I'm sorry that I must have forgotten to turn off the camera. The other thing that I did was I added some stitching under the 10 months in Canada just to emphasize it a little bit. And I also stitched along the top of the word 10, just right over the tiles. So as I said, this is a slightly different style for me, but I do really love how it turned out. And yeah, check out these photos of the layout up close. I hope you guys enjoyed this process video and have a really great scrappy week.